All right, let's talk about retirement. You know, we're often sold this kind of prepackaged dream, right? The one with the beaches, the RVs, endless margaritas. But here's a thought. What if those dreams aren't actually our dreams?
So let's just get right to it with a really big question. I want you to think about your ideal retirement for a second. That picture in your head, where did it come from? Seriously, was it a magazine? Maybe a friend's perfect-looking Instagram feed? We're going to spend a little time digging into the source code of why we want what we want.
Yeah, I bet these look pretty familiar, don't they? They're kind of like the greatest hits of retirement dreams. You know, the ready-made scripts for what a successful retirement is supposed to look like. And if you're nodding along right now, don't worry. It doesn't mean you're not creative. It's actually a huge clue about how our brains are wired.
So, what's really going on here? I mean, it's deeper than just seeing someone buy an RV and thinking, hey, that looks cool, I should do that. It's more subtle. We don't just copy what people do. We actually start to copy what they want. That desire itself, it's contagious.
And there's actually a name for this whole phenomenon. It's called memetic desire. It's a really powerful idea from a philosopher named René Girard. And his big insight was this. Most of the time, we don't really know what we want on our own. So we look around at other people. He called them models. And we just kind of borrow their desires.
And this is where it gets really interesting. Because we think we want the thing, right? The beach house, the fancy RV. But what we're really chasing is the feeling, the state of being that we imagine the owner has. We don't actually want the leaky roof or the RV maintenance. We want that sense of calm, that feeling of adventure, that I've made it feeling we project onto them.
So why is retirement such a perfect storm for all this? Well, think about it. For decades, our lives have all this scaffolding, you know? Our careers, our daily schedules, what's expected of us. And then, poof, retirement comes along and rips all that scaffolding away. We're left with this huge, kind of scary blank space. And asking the really hard question, what do I truly want, is tough. It's just so much easier to reach for the nearest, shiniest blueprint that everyone else is using.
And that's what leads us to this idea of borrowed dreams. These are the retirement plans that, they sound amazing, they look great on paper, but they didn't actually come from you.
You want to see a perfect example of this in action? Look at the FIRE movement, Financial Independence Retire Early. It started out as a totally useful math problem, right? How much do I need to save? But for a lot of people, it turned into this rigid template for how to live your entire life. And you can tell it was a bit of a borrowed dream because it almost immediately had to splinter into all these different versions. Lean FIRE, Fat FIRE, Coast FIRE. Everyone was trying to patch the model to make it fit their actual, messy human lives.
Okay, let's make this a little more personal. The author of our source material, he had a big one. His borrowed dream was to become an expat. And man, he went all in. We're talking years of planning, reading all the magazines, even going to seminars. On paper, it was absolutely perfect.
And then, he actually retired. He did it. He crossed the finish line. He had the money. He had the freedom. The stage was set to finally live out this dream.
And the feeling he had in that moment was, nothing. It wasn't even fear or second-guessing. It was just this flat, quiet lack of desire. After all those years of planning, he realized he didn't actually want to do it. The dream just vanished.
But here's the crazy part. The thing that came next wasn't disappointment. It was relief. A huge sense of relief. He said it felt like finally taking off a heavy backpack that he realized he never even had to be carrying in the first place. There's this incredible lightness that comes from letting go of a want that was never really yours to begin with. So that's the big pivot, right? From a borrowed dream to an authentic one. Because what fills that space when you let go of the big flashy plan, it's not a scary void, it's actually a huge opportunity.
And this is maybe the most important takeaway of all. Letting go of that borrowed dream, that big all-or-nothing plan, it doesn't leave you with nothing. It creates clarity. It's like you're finally clearing away all the noise, and your real, authentic desires can finally come to the surface. And the thing is, they were there the whole time.
Just look at the difference here. The expat dream was this giant, all-or-nothing thing. It was kind of performative, something to tell people about. But the authentic desire that bubbled up, in his case, van life, was the total opposite. It was modular, personal, and something he could adapt to his real life, not the other way around.
Because when you peel it all back, what did he really want? Adventure, movement, curiosity. The whole expat life thing was just one very specific, kind of loud costume for those desires. Once he took off the costume, the actual desires were still there, but way more clear.
All right, so this brings us to the really practical part. How do we actually learn how to want again?
because that's one of the quiet but maybe most important jobs of retirement.
First, we got to recalibrate what we're even looking for. We're always told to dream big, but real, authentic desires, they're often not that big. They're quieter. They don't make for a great Instagram post, and honestly, they probably don't need an audience. They might not even make sense to anyone else, and that's a good sign. That's how you know they're actually yours.
So how do we start this process? Well, here are a few things to try. 1. Focus on subtraction, not addition. What can you let go of? 2. Just take longer pauses. Before you jump into a big decision, give it time to breathe. 3. Feel less of a need to explain yourself. If a choice feels right, you don't owe anyone a dissertation on it. And 4, and this is a big one, give yourself permission for a peaceful no. It's okay to say no to a perfectly good idea that just isn't your idea.
Look, at the end of the day, you don't need to have some perfect new dream ready to go. That's not the point. The real work isn't about finding a new thing to want. It's just about stopping the automatic wanting of what you're told to want. It's about creating enough quiet space for your real desires to finally speak up. So I'll just leave you with this to think about. What happens when you stop wanting what you're told to want? What might you find out you've wanted all along once all that other noise is gone?